All in Sports Network. We love sports.
It is Friday, January 17th, and this is your daily fix for all things Texas Longhorns right here on All In Horns, brought to you by Rogue Sports Network. I'm Tanner Carlson. That is Jake Jimerson. And as we are recording this episode on Wednesday night, the Texas Longhorns leading Oklahoma with 12 minutes remaining in the second half, 55-40. So forbidding a 15-point comeback for Oklahoma. Texas will have picked up their first SEC win. Now, 15 points in a 12-minute span, not impossible. Just moved it up to 16, by the way, 56-40. Not impossible. We've seen crazier things happen in college basketball. But to talk a little bit about this game, just so we don't completely miss it by next week, Texas has a 6-game win streak in Norman. That's counting this game. 5 games going into it. So if they do blow this game, Texas has a 5-game win streak going into this game, losing it in Norman tonight. But they've won 9 out of their last 10. Again, that's with the win holding. Last OU win before this one, if they come back and win this one, January 26th of 2021. It was 80-79. I watched that game live. I remember it very vividly happening. Austin Reeves buzzer beater. I thought Texas had it in the bag. And Texas dominated in men's basketball over Oklahoma. It's no surprise that they're doing that right now. But the Austin Reeves play, I remember that happening very vividly. Can't believe it happened in 2021. Doesn't seem like that's possible, that it was that long ago since OU last beat Texas in basketball. But it's true because Texas likes to be called daddy whenever they're on the hardwood.
I mean, right now, Texas just kind of owns OU and everything that's not softball.
Hey, I don't care if basketball sucks. There is one game that I want Texas to always win. It will always be beating Oklahoma in any sport imaginable.
Doesn't mean it's a Rodney Terry job saver. My opinions on that.
OU's 0-3. Yeah, they're 0-3. This isn't some great win. It's a nice win for Texas to have bragging rights, but this isn't some like season-changing win by any stretch of the imagination.
This is saying they hold on. It is 13 points now with 10:49. I am not comfortable that they can go on a 10-minute scoring drought. I believe in the power of the scoring droughts of Rodney Terry.
They can go on a 5-minute scoring drought, and OU can definitely score 13 minutes within a 5-minute span.
Yeah. So this is all assuming we'll update it as we go along. If there's anything major, I have it on my other monitor, but yeah, I mean, it's nice to finally get that first win. It doesn't really instill more confidence. I mean, they have played their 2 best games of the season back to back, one being a tough, gritty loss to Tennessee. And one being presumably a win against Oklahoma.
We've coined the term gritty loss for Rodney Terry.
Yeah,
it's going to be
that is in sarcasm. We do not actually like it.
Yeah, it's become kind of his calling card between the scoring droughts and losing tough, close games against really good teams. That's kind of been his whole shtick since he's been at Texas. Is they play their best games against good teams, but they still lose those games. They're just close, good losses, and there's no such thing.
An inability to recruit big men.
Yeah. Whether that be through the transfer portal or through recruiting.
Yeah, they missed on several guys in the transfer portal. Going into this year, you could not let Cajun Cedric be your only big, and then also let him shoot threes every game and never make them.
Yeah, and just be terrible at shooting them.
Yeah, there's just a lot of roster building issues I have with Rodney Terry. I just don't understand how you could bring Trey Johnson in and allow this to happen. It's just frustrating. Even though they're likely going to win this game, it's frustrating just seeing a talent like Trey Johnson come into the program and just having an inefficient roster built around it. In what should have been a good, even with the SEC being what it is this year in basketball, Texas should be right up there ranked in the top 25, winning some of these games against top teams.
Here's my question to you, Jake. We talked about it. We'll talk about it in Saturday's episode. Is Texas's roster any better or worse than Mississippi State?
I mean, again, at big man, they're worse than just about everyone. I know you might be cutting it to 10. They just hit a shot and got fouled. This game is not over though. You crowd's getting into it. I'm getting worried already.
Yeah, all right. Hey, let's get some excitement on the podcast. Let's have a mental breakdown on the podcast.
A live mental breakdown. The end of All In Horns. I mean, again, Texas's roster has a ton of talent. They are inefficient at big man, and there is no scheming to go around that right now. And really, they should be okay without the big men because they have a Kaluma who can dominate on the offensive boards. They still have Shredrick. They have Kent, who's been getting more playing time and he's not good, but he's not awful. And you have a lot of size at the forward position. But there's just too many possessions on offense where it's one guy touches the ball, dribbles around, maybe gets a pick at most, and then shoots it. And just no really rhythm to the offense. And I've seen enough games now this season because really, we only saw there's only a handful of games I watched before conference play because I'm sorry, I'm not going to sit there and watch a full game and then playing Mississippi Valley State.
Yeah, or Chicago State or whatever it is.
I've seen probably like 6 or 7 games from start to finish. And it's just a bad you explained it best, I think earlier in the week of it's like 5 guys out there playing pickup basketball.
That's just what it looks like. It's what it feels like.
That's what it looks. That's what it feels like. And that's why they go on long scoring droughts because when your individual players start missing some shots, they don't score. And that's what happens. And they're not real great at rebounding, which is to be expected with that. But that doesn't mean that they should just be as inadequate as they have been against better competition and unable to hold leads, turning the ball over, and all those sorts of things. It's just not good enough. And this is now an 8-point ball game.
Yeah, I feel like this is a slight issue for Trey Johnson. I know he's a freshman and he needs, and the OU crowd is definitely into this. I've got it up on my second screen as well.
Not bad for a softball school.
But Trey Johnson has had turnover issues, is what I'm trying to get at.
Yes. I think if you're running a real offense, some of those issues would be
go away. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
He wouldn't turn the ball over, but you're asking a freshman to just run around with the ball and score for you. And that's kind of their best way of producing offense right now because they don't run. I don't know of an offensive set they run. I mean, the game against Syracuse is the only game I've seen them run an offensive set, and that's just because you're going against a zone. And they ran the same offensive set that I ran playing basketball in high school, and they ran it the entire game. One guy at the high post, one guy running down on the low post baseline to baseline. That was their whole offense the whole time.
You know what you don't ever see out of this team? A pick and roll.
Passes.
Just a simple high screen at the top of the key. Like, you don't see a backdoor cut. I don't see any movement off the ball whenever the ball handler has it at the top of the key. It's just they spread out to the 3-point line and they just let it go one-on-one. And hopefully that guy can make a play happen for him.
Yeah.
It's abysmal to watch. It's just not to me, that's NBA style basketball. And it's just not fun for me to watch. I don't want to see that. And these guys aren't good enough to play NBA style basketball. You don't have a Luka Doncic out there who's just going to own somebody one-on-one. And you just don't have that.
No, it's not how the best teams in college basketball play that are scoring a bunch of points. We've talked about the low assist numbers for Texas, and it's an every game thing for them most of the time because they just are not moving the ball around. There's no ball movement. There's no off the ball movement, which leads to no ball movement. It's just kind of guys standing around. Maybe you see a screen every now and then, but that's really it.
There's no off ball screens ever. I don't ever see an off ball screen. somebody on the baseline freeing somebody else up, in the paint or anything else at any point in time when this team plays. All right, Jake, let's change the conversation. You will see us updated. Now, this game will already be concluded and over with while you're watching this game or while you're watching this episode, but you will get our live reactions as it's happening as we are recording this episode. So, we'll keep you in tune with that as
They're
the
gonna
game
lose
goes
this
on.
game.
Oh yeah, I'm not surprised by that whatsoever. Okay. Yeah, this is actually really good to see how Jake and I
You fire him post game if they blow a 20+ point lead.
Yeah, this is Jake. This is how you and I exchange text to each other while Texas is playing any game. Except this is going to be recorded live as it's happening, and recorded and posted on the internet without text messages. It'll just be with a camera in front of our face.
Yeah. Let the record show. Tanner asked me before we went on, should I just make it Texas beats Oklahoma? I stopped him from doing that. You're welcome, Longhorn Nation.
It was over 20 points. It was a 20-something point game at the time. So yeah, I was like, yeah, Texas has this one in the bag. It's an easy win. And so yeah, no, you can blame me for it. That's fine. All right, Jake, conversation piece. The Dallas Cowboys made a big splash by firing Mike McCarthy. There are rumors, very low, soft whispers. Well, they mutually parted ways by not extending his contract.
Yeah. I don't even want to give the credit of firing him. They rejected requests I'm glad he's gone.
Yes.
I don't have belief in them to make a great hire, but I'm still glad he's gone and it'll be just someone different to look at on the sidelines. But I will refuse to give the credit of firing because they literally rejected requests for him to interview the week before.
Okay, so I'll say this much. They did him dirty, but also he had no right to be respected in any type of capacity. Like Jerry Jones screwed him over, but that's what Jerry Jones does. If you expect anything else out of Jerry Jones.
You go into business with Jerry Jones, that should be your expectation.
You can get shafted at any moment in time, and you can better well expect that it's going to happen. So, or you're going to keep your job as long as you're a puppet like Jason Garrett and just have those strings pulling on you for 10+ years. That brings me to my point, though. The reason why I brought that up, and we got on a little side tangent about Mike McCarthy, is the willingness to hire a college football head coach at the NFL level, Jake. We don't see it often, and when we do see it, very rarely does it result in success. Very few have been able to do it. Pete Carroll, one of those guys, probably on a short list of coaches that Dallas would be interested in talking to. Would you mind a college quarterback becoming the Dallas Cowboys head coach? And what if it was Steve Sarkisian? What would the conflicted feelings in your mind be of, oh, cool, we got Sark at Dallas, but now we just lost him at Texas?
Well, first off, you said college quarterback being a head coach in the NFL. I wouldn't like that. Quinn Ewers being the head coach of the Cowboys would be a wild move.
A college head coach being an NFL head coach.
17-1 run in the last 5:49 by Oklahoma.
It's a 5-point game, 56-51. 8 minutes to go.
Yeah, we know how this ends. I would hate it because Jerry Jones is the main issue of the Dallas Cowboys. I think Sarkisian would probably maximize the roster better. But that doesn't mean that he's just going to translate to the pros.
Mm-hmm.
I feel much more comfortable with him at Texas. I feel much more confident with him at Texas than I would at Dallas. And I definitely don't want him to go to a different NFL team. So I'm just kind of left, that would be not the worst case scenario. The worst case scenario would be him going to like the Giants or the Eagles or the Commanders.
And then being really good.
Yeah, because then that would be bad. And then the next worst case is going anywhere else, and then it's still a worst case going to Dallas. So I wouldn't want that. I'd rather Dallas just it's going to be Kellen Moore. I mean, I don't even know why we're having this. It's going to be Kellen Moore, Jason Witt.
Okay, so I'm not necessarily talking. I'm not getting into the conversation of who's going to be the next head coach for the Dallas Cowboys. But
It's an easy
Jake,
conversation.
it brings me to my point, though. I wanted to ask you this: what if your favorite NFL team and your favorite college team swap coaches? Where would the success most likely lie for your team? So, say you're a USC fan, and your two favorite teams are USC and the LA Rams. If you switched Sean McVay and Lincoln Riley, who would have more success in those two programs? Sean McVay at USC or Lincoln Riley in LA?
Sean McVay, for sure.
Yeah.
I
So
really
too.
don't see Lincoln Riley translating to the NFL.
Yeah. What about I don't even know where Baltimore. Okay, well, just for the sake of it being relatively close, what about John Harbaugh, Baltimore head coach, going to Ohio State? Is that a better? And then Ryan Day going and coaching Baltimore.
Baltimore would be worse. Though I don't think it would be that much worse. I don't think Ryan Day, I don't think would translate terribly.
To the
Just
NFL?
because I think he takes over more as a general manager type of head coach.
Mm-hmm.
That would translate better, kind of like how Pete Carroll works. Not he wouldn't be Pete Carroll, but I think Baltimore would be worse than they are now. I think Ohio State would be better. I don't doubt a Harbaugh. That is a golden rule of coaches right now in football. Yeah. He would probably win a national championship. He'd probably win multiple, especially at Ohio State. Mm-hmm. I don't doubt it at all. What I would love is for Jim Harbaugh to go back to Michigan and John Harbaugh to go to Ohio State and just battle it out every year.
Would be
that's
fantastic.
The dream.
That would be great. I love the idea of that.
That'd be the best football game. It would overtake Texas OU while they were there.
The Harbaugh Bowl in the NFL is must-watch TV. So you put that at the college level with Ohio State, Michigan. Oh my gosh, dude! Talk about they'd have to sign lifetime contracts just for the entertainment purposes.
Can you imagine the numbers, the ratings?
Oh my gosh.
Already incredible for that game.
I already think that the game itself would be incredible. Like, just talk about just knockout, drag out, just trying to beat each other up.
I guarantee you one thing: Ohio State wouldn't get bullied. They would both bully each other. But they wouldn't be Ryan Dade. There. So
what about? So obviously Mike McCarthy is gone, but with the Texas. What if you do Texas and Dallas and you put Sark in Dallas and you put, say, a McCarthy in Austin? I think Dallas would still be better off, to be 100% honest with you. I think it comes down to sometimes is who is the better football coach? Who's the better mind?
Yeah, 3-point game.
You're about 5 seconds ahead of me.
Oh boy. This is embarrassing to watch.
It's frustrating. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think Dallas would be better off. I mean, you're talking in the NIL era, the transfer portal era, you have a potential full rebuild coming. And if it happened right now, Arch could leave. He's here a lot because of Sarkisian. I mean, it just totally changes. It totally changes everything.
Texas just scored their first basket since the 12-minute mark in the second half, by the way.
Yeah. This is why I told you not to put that.
It's at the 7-minute mark. So they almost went on a 5-minute scoring drought.
That's nothing new.
No, but
fair.
Did I not call it like 5 minutes ago?
Yeah. Yeah, which is why I told you not to put that title screen up, which I'm glad you didn't.
No. It will read Texas OU basketball, and that's it.
Yeah, you're getting to watch us descend into madness slowly because I just lost track. But yeah, I think Dallas would be better, and then Texas would. It's not that Texas couldn't rebuild, but like as far as where the program is right now, yeah, I mean you're probably going to go through a year or two of suffering compared to where we've been the last couple of years to get back, and that's if you nail the hire, which you have to do. And right now in college football. I mean, unless you're going to go get a Kirby Smart or A Kirby Smart? Yeah, like, I don't know. Who are you gonna go
Market
get that's a surefire Marcus Freeman?
maybe
Does
Marcus
that
Freeman.
for sure translate to Texas? Does he even
Yeah.
wanna leave Notre Dame? That's not a guarantee. Notre Dame
No.
has money to throw ton of money to throw
Yeah.
around. They get to
More
keep all this money because
yeah,
they're not in
yeah.
a conference.
More than any other conference team, that's for sure. All right, Jake. Speaking of college coaches with zero experience at that level, but big name guys. Dion at Jackson State. That actually ended up kind of working out not only for Jackson State, but for Dion and this Colorado program. But you've got guys like Bill Belichick coaching, obviously 6 Super Bowls at the NFL level, but now going to be the head coach at North Carolina. You got Mike Vick, who was hired at Norfolk State, and Deshaun Jackson, who I wasn't even aware that he was interested in coaching at any point in time. Deshaun Jackson, yes, that Deshaun Jackson at Delaware State, another HBCU program, who is hiring kind of former NFL players, guys who can probably relate and bring in a culture. And Oklahoma just cut it to a 4-point lead with a big 3. So, but anyway, what is your kind of take on these programs bringing in fits to their football program that really just has, a Mike Vick or a Deshaun Jackson that has no coaching history, but played in the NFL and is a relatively popular name?
In the NIL era, I don't think it's the worst thing to do.
Yeah.
We've talked about this briefly previously, and I think it's going to boost donor support. I think there's going to be people who didn't go to your college that want to donate to you just because they're a fan of that person, and then they go, "I'm going to like this team. I'm going to try to help build them up." And why not? If you're a team that's around that, a program that's around that size, why not take that roll of the dice?
Yeah.
It's going to be an influx in revenue for you at the very least.
I'm really curious. The Deshaun Jackson thing throws me off because he was a player that was he had some off the field issues. He had some prior, relationships
So
with
did Mike
friends.
Vick.
Well, that's obvious. Yeah.
He went to jail.
Yeah. I mean, and Deshaun Jackson, he also, apparently was kind of still associated with some of his buddies who were in gangs back whenever he was playing and stuff, and had to kind of rotate between teams, whether that be with the Raiders or whomever it was. Obviously, Mike Vick with his history of. Would that concern you as a parent of some of these kiddos going to go play for them? Or obviously, the athletic director and the hiring staff and the boards have, seen their history and approved of it and said, yeah, bring them on. We'll take that risk.
Deshaun Jackson, I think, is the tougher one. For Mike Vick, you've seen him around enough now since that's happened to see, that he's probably a changed man. And I think if you're a parent, you go through the process, you talk to him, you try to get a feel for it. Mike, because everyone deserves second chances, right?
Well, absolutely.
In life. And as you grow older, you mature. And so if anything, the caveat of they are, you get a good feeling around them, you do feel that they've changed and learned from their mistakes. The caveat of that is that's a pretty powerful thing to have as a coach. Sarkisian has it, Sarkisian has a history that's not great, and has battled addiction with alcohol. And he uses that as probably a way to connect with players, to understand mistakes, be patient, but also have discipline.
Yeah.
And then also, you could be a little honest with your players of like, look, this is where I've been. This is what I learned. Don't make the same mistakes I made. Don't have to go through that learning process that I did.
Yeah.
So I think it can be a positive thing, but it all goes to, have they changed? Just because they got a head coaching job doesn't mean that they're doing the right things off the court, Chris Beard.
Yeah.
That can I know what you just saw with your face.
It's just horrible basketball being played on both sides.
Horrendous. Horrendous.
I know you're going on a good spiel, but I was watching. I was like,
no, it looks like watching 5th grade YMCA.
It looks like watching the WNBA is what it looks like.
Yeah,
Sorry.
shots fired, but it looks like watching two bad WNBA
Yeah,
teams.
yeah,
We'll,
yeah.
we'll make it nicer.
Hmm.
And even the NBA at times. But no,
A lot of times.
I think it can be a good thing, ultimately. And
Yeah.
I've
So
always
what
believed everyone deserves second chances.
I definitely think that there is the popularity aspect of, yeah, I want to go play for Deshaun Jackson. That's kind of freaking cool, you know. Like I want to
Especially
pick
Mike
his brain.
Vick.
Yeah, and then you get to play for a guy like Mike Vick, who obviously was a human highlight reel in his playing day, and just got elected into the College Football Hall of Fame in 2025. By the way, shout out Michael Huff. You also got the inductee as well. So Michael Huff and Mike Vick getting the nods. At least those are the only two that I've seen that have gotten the nods for the College Football Hall of Fame in 2025. But yeah,
Nick Saban.
And Nick Saban. I did see that. Yep.
That's a fairly large
It's
one.
a fairly big one. So that's a great class. Wow, that's a really good class. But yeah, I tend to agree with you that Dion changed this perspective of what a college football head coach can be and how a college football coach should act and how he should respond to players getting paid. And because I think these players know the business side of it more so than somebody on the outside who's never experienced how an athlete gets treated with payments and things of that nature. You know, I think it's great perspective for a Michael Vick or for a Deshaun Jackson to say, hey, look, this is the business of football, and it's at the college football level, not at the NFL level.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point in itself too, because I think with players getting paid, coming from the accounting side of things, it is only a matter of time until we see someone get caught up for a tax issue or burns all their money.
And it may not even be their fault.
Yeah. And it may not even be their fault. And I think if you have that experience playing in the NFL, dealing with the business side of football more, you're probably going to be more inclined to talk to players about getting a financial advisor, to talk to players about, I know you feel like this money's always going to come in. But what if this or this happens? And also, if you just spend it all, you spend it all. It's gone. It doesn't matter. And talk about, being responsible with your money and your money management. And so there's that business side of things that they can help out as well, which I'm surprised I wasn't the one to think of that one first, just because me and my boss have had long talks about, what schools should be doing to help these players who are getting these large sums of money as pretty young guys. We audit nonprofits and construction and all types of different industries, but you kind of see some of these nonprofits. I've seen them. I've seen NIL payments to players.
Yeah.
And kind of what that looks like. And they're not small amounts. And so it's been interesting to kind of see that on my end.
Yeah.
And be like, man, these guys are getting money.
Well, Texas has pushed it to
money.
Yeah, Texas pushed to an 8-point game with 4.5 minutes remaining. So still not out of the woods yet, but
still embarrassing.
Still embarrassing. Just bad basketball being played is what my overall takeaway is it's Oklahoma's not a good basketball team and Texas isn't a good basketball team either. Jake, talk a little bit, but as we are winding this episode down, you have a bit of a take. I think it's a slightly lukewarm take for now. It might be hotter as it gets closer to that time to make the decision of no more conference championship games in college football. What does that look like? And what was kind of, you had briefly touched on it. You mentioned it. I want you to elaborate on that conversation, that idea that you may have had.
First off, putting me on the spot. I didn't even know we had that lined up on the docket today.
It's right there. Read. Should conference championship games be eliminated? Question mark.
I missed that one. But look, hey, to be fair, I am in my busy season right now. My preparedness is not going to be as good as normal. I deserve a little bit of a break. I'm giving myself a little bit of a break. But no, we talked about how the support for the playoff, I think part comes from every other level of football has it. Well, does the FCS have conference championship games?
No.
Does NAIA, does Division II NCAA, does Division III, does high school, They don't have district championship games.
No, you just win it in the regular season. It's a regular season championship.
And Texas would have played 17 games to win a national championship or lose in a national championship this year. That's a lot of games in college. And that's with a 12-team playoff. If it expands even further, it could be more. You could be talking an 18-game season. And not only that, the schedule keeps going further and further. You're almost getting into
Super Bowl.
Damn near February.
Yeah.
And so I think especially if it's going to expand to 16 teams, which I think it is going to, even though I would prefer to keep it at 12, I think you almost have to. And then not only that, this is a 1-year sample size. We'll see how it happens next year as well. But let's say next year we get to it and 3 out of the 4 or all 4 conference champions lose again. And you have a bunch of teams in the semifinals that didn't play in a conference championship game. I think that is a pretty, not a great sample size, but it's at that point, it's pretty good proof that extra game and that wear and tear is too much. So I'm not saying I'm all the way for it. I'm saying I think the discussion needs to be had. I think you should take players' input in. I think you should take coaches' input in on whether those should be played.
Yeah. And one could argue that if Ohio State had played in the Big Ten championship game, what would their season look like had they, say Penn State dropped a game and they lost to Michigan and then still had to go play the Big Ten championship game and not had enough time to kind of mentally repair themselves following that Michigan game, go into play Oregon, get the brakes beaten off of them. That break from Michigan to first round of the playoffs, where you kind of had almost 3 weeks to kind of just regroup and reset your whole team, probably benefited Ohio State more so than it did Penn State or Oregon even.
And also for Texas, they would have been the 5 seed still, more than likely. If
regardless
they didn't
if they played it, yeah.
Georgia would have won it with the tiebreaker. You got, right?
Texas was regular season SEC champion.
No, you're right, because Georgia had 2 losses. So actually they would have had Texas would have had a bye. Get rid of it. No, but let's say Georgia only had 1 loss just for this hypothetical, and Texas would have still been the 5th. Do you think playing that extra game against Georgia with how physical that game is, how much more banged up players get, was a good thing for them to have to then play Clemson in 2 weeks?
Right.
No. And so I don't know if the reward is worth the risk, especially for SEC and Big Ten teams. The Big 12 and ACC kind of throw a wrench into things, I think, to a point as of right now. But if you're going to go to 16 teams at that point, I don't even think it matters for the Big 12 and the ACC.
Yeah, I love the idea of having conference, and that's, you're not necessarily saying conference games wouldn't matter or conference games wouldn't have meaning.
Still have a conference champion.
You would still have your conference champion, and you would still play your conference games, and they would still, you'd still depend on winning those games to get a bye week or to be ranked higher in the college football playoffs or what have you in terms of seeding, how seeding goes and things like that. Talking more so just the championship game does not determine whether or not you are champions of your conference or not. It would just fall into the regular season, which almost would make the regular season more important.
Yeah, to a point, Clemson doesn't get in this year.
Right. Like those games are more impactful on your season, whether you win or lose them in the regular season, which has kind of been some of the people who have been not necessarily in favor of a 12-team expansion playoff, of saying, some of these 12, some of these regular season games are diluted a little bit in terms of wins and losses mattering as much. Well, I think if you take conference championship games away, that actually then puts back more emphasis on winning your regular season.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't make it less.
No.
It then combine that with the wear and tear conversation of just putting an extra game on the better teams.
But now let's have the money conversation, Jake. What does that do for revenue?
Yeah, so that's where it probably stays in, right? But when I think about, because all things I've read, all signs point to this expanding more to 16, then I think it'll stop at 16. I do think it'll stop at 16, and whatever they go with in 2016. That'll primarily be the format moving forward for the foreseeable future. But with adding that, I just the conference champion, that is just a lot of games, and I'm all about watching more college football. But at the same time, I also do care about player health. You do have 18-year-olds out there playing.
I want my players to be playing in the national championship. I want the best players to be playing. You're already seeing it in the NFL, Jake. How many quarterbacks didn't play the last 3,
How many
4, 5?
players
Yeah.
didn't play just in general? Also, that just get sat out. I wouldn't be surprised.
Player
If
management.
at some point,
Yep.
players are getting sit in conference championship games.
Yep.
If you're already in the playoff,
Treated like a
and
bowl
you're
game.
confident in what your seating is going to be, just go, we'll sit some guys out. We're still going to try to win, but I think we can win if we set, X, Y, and Z player out, but it gives us a better chance to win a national title.
Yeah.
Because I think going to the semis, going to a national title is going to mean more than winning that conference championship game.
Without a doubt. Look at Oregon. Do you think that they're happy with the way their season ended, even though they were Big Ten champions?
No, I would rather be Texas than Georgia, and Texas lost them twice.
Yep.
But Texas went to the semifinal. I care about going further in the playoff than I do winning the conference championship game. And maybe that's the wrong way to look at it. I'm sure there's plenty of people who disagree with that, and that's awesome. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just saying how I feel.
Yeah. Well, Jake, it's a 4-point game with 3 minutes left. This episode is not going to carry out further. I'm ready to close this thing down. We tried to expand it a little bit longer, but I've run out of conversation topics other than watching this game and giving everybody a live recap of how we're feeling about the game as we're watching it until it closes. But with 3 minutes in college basketball, that could be another 20 minutes onto this podcast, and I am not feeling like doing that right now.
Ridiculous. They should start a game in the central time zone at 9:00 on a weeknight. Yeah. It is 11:18 and this game is not over, and not particularly close to over with how college basketball works. They're going to be shooting. They're both in the double bonus. They're going to be shooting free throws forever. Absolutely ridiculous that this game is started at 9 p.m.
Agreed. And I'll let you end it on that. For your daily fix for all things Texas Longhorns, this is your daily fix. And All In Horns, brought to you by Rogue Sports Network. I'm Tanner Carlson. That is Jake Jimerson. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, welcome.
All In Sports Network. We love sports.